So let's talk about the 5 things that the Bible says we should do with money. Now, there's a whole bunch of them, but if you do these 5 over a couple decades, 100% of the time, you will get results that will blow your ever-loving mind.
You heard him. Dave Ramsey's results work 100% of the time, and many people are indebted to him and scream the same thing. The best thing is that everyone can model it after him and get from poverty to financial independence. Dave Ramsey was bankrupt and heavily in debt, but through this difficult experience, he discovered something not many people know. The few rules and golden nuggets he discovered would turn him from having nothing to becoming incredibly wealthy extremely fast, and one of the most popular personal finance teachers in the world. Surprisingly, the methods are almost too simple to be believable, and anyone can implement them with ease.
I've led more people out of debt and into wealth than anybody breathing on the planet today, and so we're going to get out of debt.
What are the steps that took him from a step to being homeless to his first $100,000 and led others on the same path? We decided to dig deeper into Dave Ramsey's backstory, and it wouldn't surprise you that this man is much smarter than we think. He invented a new, better way to manage personal finances, and it's clearly shown by the number of people he's led to wealth. He utilizes 5 simple systems to beat poverty and build wealth. Dave Ramsey started out as a real estate agent, and over an extremely short period of time, he amassed $4 million. While this amount is pretty unbelievable, especially in the time frame he managed to do it, it wasn't something sustainable. What ended up happening is that the banks realized that Dave Ramsey was severely over-leveraged. Essentially, he was borrowing a lot of money that the bank deemed to be unfair and recalled $1.2 million in loans. Unfortunately, since Dave Ramsey's portfolio was mostly loaned money, he couldn't pay anything back and had to file for bankruptcy the year after. But it was the few years after that that led him to find the perfect model for growing his first $100,000 entirely owned by him, which takes us to step 1. The first step that Dave Ramsey started practicing is to write down a written plan. Today, this is known as a budget, but there's a significant difference in how Dave Ramsey practices his budget compared to others. Most people will generally track their expenses and income and save whatever they have left over. The issue here is that there's nothing concrete about the budget they have, and it's often changing, so that you could have all the variables shown clearly and objectively. This way, there's no room for error or variability that can hinder the growth of wealth. To take this step, all you need to do is start writing your budget down. That means tracking your expenses exactly as they are, tracking your income to the cent, and cutting your expenses where you need to with exact amounts. Once Dave Ramsey created his budget, something clearly was presented to him: that he needed to get out of debt. This leads us to his second step. Did you know that about 80% of Americans are in some form of debt? Most people with debt will simply pay off the minimum they have to pay just to keep things stable. But this won't help you build wealth. Dave Ramsey's experience with debt is not the best, and he was committed to not just paying the minimum balance, but getting rid of debt entirely. This meant getting rid of loans, lines of credit, credit cards, medical bills, and mortgages. In fact, to this day, he still doesn't have a credit card and only uses cash. If Dave Ramsey could get rid of debt after being bankrupt, you can too. One of the things Dave Ramsey had to change to get out of debt might surprise people though. While Dave Ramsey was working on getting out of debt, he found himself changing who he was hanging around with. For many people, the big reason they're in debt is that the people they hang around with like to spend more than they have and are also in debt. Since Dave Ramsey realized this, he made a conscious effort to surround himself with people who were already rich and had already amassed great wealth. Not surprisingly, it helped him get to his first $100,000 and build massive wealth. It may be good to question the quality of your friendships in regard to money. Now that Dave Ramsey started making money, a new thought was presented in his mind. This thought leads us to step 4. When you have excess money, do you follow the crowd and keep it in your bank account for the thrill of seeing a big number? This is relatively normal for those who have some extra money, but it's hindering your growth to wealth. Dave Ramsey wasn't content with just having money in his bank account. He wanted to see his money work for him, so he decided to invest it. This led to immense growth in a very short period of time. And thankfully, in today's generation, it's really easy to get started with investing your money and having professionals make excellent choices for you. With an excess of money, Dave Ramsey wanted to know what else he could do, and what he realized is completely counterintuitive to what's normally thought. When people have money, they usually feel possessive of it and want to keep it to themselves. They typically do this out of fear of losing. But Dave Ramsey realized that wasn't the way to continue growing wealth. Instead of being afraid to lose his money, and if there's anyone that should be afraid, it would be him, he decided to be generous to those in need. He discovered that the vast majority of wealthy people were people that were liked by everyone due to their generosity. Dave Ramsey realized that money is used to serve us and make us happy. If we can be happy after we've accumulated wealth, the best thing to do is to find a way to make others happy.